Hey everybody, today's April 25th, 2023, and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin. And we're going to talk about whether the potential breakout that I talked about last week is going to play out, or whether we're going to pull back, and whether we should sell in May and go away as they say, or whether or not Bitcoin will find support and potentially go up higher. Before we begin, please read this disclaimer, and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so last week I talked about how I thought that Bitcoin was potentially following this 4-year cycle, right? I mean, this whole month I've been talking about this, right? How Bitcoin was potentially following a similar pattern where we had a big 26% breakout candle and then we consolidated for a month and before moving up higher. And this was in April of 2019, right? 4 years later, same thing, right? 26% breakout candle, consolidate for 1 month, and then another breakout higher potentially. And everything looked like it was about to follow that path, right? Look at this beautiful weekly candle, right? And I talked, but we suddenly saw the price plunge down, right? And potentially close really bad. And this was last Tuesday. So of course I didn't said that there's strong resistance around 30,000, right? Obviously 30,000 was strong support in 2021, and then we broke that in 2022, and then we basically plunged. So I think that 30,000 is not going to be necessarily easy, but at the same time, the price action was looking pretty good, right? We had this spectacular rally in 2023 in January up to now, and it looked very similar to this breakout in 2019, right after the bear market 2018. So I said, well, you know, it's possible if there's a lot of momentum, we could push up above 30,000 despite being strong resistance. But of course, 30,000 may be strong enough to basically nullify that thesis, right? So then I presented an alternative thesis, which is 2016, which is a little bit more slow and steady, right? So I think that's what's more likely to play out, right? Because what happened was, even though that last video I did was on Tuesday and that post was on Thursday of last week, Sunday we basically closed with a bearish engulfing candle. And let me just give you a cleaner chart. So as you can see, we closed with a bearish engulfing candle, meaning that the close was below the open of the previous week, which is usually a bearish sign, right? And so based on that, I believe that my thesis that this thing is following something similar to 2019 is probably nullified at this point. And we may see something more similar to what we saw in 2016, right? Where after the bear market, of 2014 and 2015, right, when we had the breakout above this range above the support level, the base that we built, right, in the bear market, the price basically went above the 100-day, and then it came back down and found support before basically going flat and then making the next impulse move up and then coming down. So basically building a much steadier base of bullish support with higher lows and higher highs, but not as like sprinting ahead, you know, in sprints basically that we saw here, right? A sprint here, pause, and a sprint here. I think we might see something similar, right? We might come down and move sideways for a while, break above the 100-day, come down for a while, and then make the next impulse move up. But that might take a little longer than just going straight up, right, and then pulling back, like what we saw similarly in 2019, right? And another thing to think about also is that this was the first time that Bitcoin spent a significant amount of time below the 200-day moving average, the blue line, right? And historically, this has been a very strong support level. See here, we held the support level. We wicked down a couple of times in the past, but we always held that level. So I do think that the market perhaps wants to come down and retest this level around 26,000, 25,000, right? So in my opinion, based on the information, I am changing my thesis, at least for now, that we probably won't follow 2019, but we'll probably follow something similar to 2016 for the reason that I just disclosed, right? And if we do lose this support, right now, Bitcoin is right on the 50-day moving average, right? We've wicked above it, right? But at the same time, the market is experiencing downward pressure, right? The stock market is experiencing downward pressure because the Fed meeting is next week, and they may raise interest rates more, right? And there's also a debt ceiling crisis in America right now that if we don't solve by this summer or fall, that could be really bad, right? So there's a couple of headwinds that are preventing the market from just being completely bullish and pushing up higher to retest the all-time high. So there is possible that if Bitcoin isn't able to hold 50-day, I do think that the next level of support is going to be around the 100-day, which is of course this goal line at 25,000. And I think that would be a good level technically to perhaps, I'm not saying you should buy, but for me that is a level that I'm looking at to enter some positions, right? I'm not buying anything right now. But if you look at the past, the 25,000 level has been a strong level, right? It's 25,000 is this local high here, which we failed to hold, this local high here, which we failed to hold, and when we fail to hold that, that becomes resistance, right? And when we come down to retest, right, when the price of Bitcoin comes down to test that level, around 25,000, which of course coincidentally is also the 100-day moving average. So a lot of things coming in, a lot of indicators coming together to give us more confluence and support of our thesis, right? That Bitcoin may come down and retest 25,000, which was in the past, resistance, and now of course a potential support level. Will Bitcoin come down and hold this level? If it does hold this level, that could be a good confirmation that 25,000 is now support instead of resistance, right? And just to reiterate again how important 30,000 is, right? This was not their only 30,000, was 30,000 a level of support in 2021, but it was also this Fibonacci support line, which we broke in 2022 during the bear market, right? And we came down, fell below the 200 week, and basically defend this level. Now we're coming up to retest this 30,000 level, which of course is also the Fibonacci level. So of course, this is going to be a very strong resistance, and we shall see if the price of Bitcoin is able to hold this level. If not, I think 25,000 is the next likely level. But I think 25,000 is going to be a strong support level. And so that is where I personally have some buy positions. But of course, this is not financial advice. You got to make your own decision, right? So let's talk about the fear and greed index, right? So last time we talked about the fear and greed index, it was a little higher, just above greed, right? See, last week was greed. So of course, now that the market has bearishly engulfed, like it's pulled back, right? So now this is coming down a little bit, and there's definitely a lot of downside potential, right? Before we hit extreme fear, right? Before it starts to get a little oversold. So that's not necessarily a good sign, but it's just something to think about, right? However, looking at the big picture, we are still in a pretty good zone, right? I mean, historically, this is a 2-year multiplier. Historically, when Bitcoin is below certain levels, right? Like this chart is telling us that Bitcoin is potentially oversold still, right? Even though we had a massive rally this year, whenever Bitcoin stays below this green line and becomes shaded, that's generally a good time to buy in the long run, right? If you're talking about multi-year, right? So even though that the price is pulling back a little bit, it's still potentially a good time to buy if you have a long-term horizon, right? Same thing with the Pi cycle top indicator, which called the top last time, right? Whenever Bitcoin breaks from under the orange line into the orange line and is able to defend any pullback to this orange line, which again, we may pull back to this orange line, which is currently at 24,000, right? So around 24, 25,000, right? So we may potentially pull back and see if we can hold that level again. If we're able to hold that level, and if you look at the past, Bitcoin historically has pulled back and retested that level multiple times here. This is 2016, right? And of course in 2019 as well, and in 2020. And when it holds that level, it's just a nice bullish confirmation that we probably are in a bull market, right? Now this might take a little longer than this, like I said, this rally that we saw in 2019. But as long as we hold above the orange line, then I'm bullish and I will continue to buy any pullback to the orange line, right? Once we break below the orange line and we stay below for a significant amount of time, that makes me worry whether we're still in the bear market or not. But as long as we're above the orange line, I'm going to give benefit of doubt to the bulls that we are still in a bull market. And that's probably just a pullback, right? A healthy pullback. So, yeah. So it looks like we had a bearish divergence here, right? See how the MACD is coming down while the price is going up, right? Same thing with the RSI, right? We've had, basically had the RSI basically decline while the price has gone up, right? So usually this is not a good sign. This is called a bearish divergence, and it means that the momentum is starting to fade, right? Even the volumes come down too, right? So this could just be the end result of what we've seen over the last couple months. If this is a big capitulation fall, that could completely reset the oscillators, which may not necessarily be a bad thing in the long run, right? A good buying opportunity perhaps, but we shall see, how this plays out. The miners have also taken a bit of a hit, but we also filled some gaps, so I'm not too worried about that. we shall see how that plays out going forward. So Bitcoin right now trying to find support on the 50-day. If it breaks, I think it'll go down to 25,000. And yeah, just to summarize, yeah, that's basically my view for this video. Is that we're gonna have to see what the Fed says next week, and I'll definitely make a video updating what the Fed says and what they do. Are they going to raise 25 basis points or more? I've said multiple times that I do think they're going to do at least 25 basis points in the next 2 meetings and bring the terminal rate above 5%, right? But we're gonna have to see what they say and also what they say after they raise the rates, if they do raise the rates, right? Because what they say also matters. Yeah, so just to summarize really quickly before I let you go, I think 30K is strong resistance. We probably have invalidated the 2019 price action prediction, and probably going to look something more like 2016, where Bitcoin takes its time and makes impulse moves up and moves sideways, and then another impulse move up, but slower than 2019, right? More like 2016. And short term, I do think that if we're not able to hold if we're not able to hold the 50-day moving average, which is around 27.5, probably fall down to 25,000, which is of course the resistance level of the last year, basically these two resistance levels, but is also the 100-day moving average support level, this gold line here, which I think is going to act as strong support. So that's basically where I have some of my buys. Of course, again, this is not financial advice, just education, entertainment. So do your own research. But yeah, that's just basically how I'm looking at Bitcoin. I'll update you next week and see what the Fed decision is on the interest rates and how that affects the stock and the Bitcoin markets. Okay, thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, useful, or informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. Appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.